window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Ayy, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Revenova, the official TMS provider for the Freight Coach. You guys, I've been a broker for a long time, and the tools that are at your disposal with Revenova help you eliminate bouncing between systems, which improves your accuracy when you are managing multiple tasks throughout your workday. Plus, it's built into the Salesforce cloud, so your CRM is fully integrated with your TMS, eliminating yet another silo. In today's day and age, you are definitely concerned about the safety of your data. With Revenova, it's fully protected. They have cutting-edge security that keeps your information safe so you can focus on what matters most, and that's growing your business. Speaking of growing your business, with Rate and Lane IQ, you get real-time pricing and route recommendations, helping you optimize costs and improve operational efficiencies, which ultimately helps you make smarter decisions. If you are like me and have recurring shipments from non-EDI customers, they have intuitive cloning features that let you easily replicate previous shipments, saving both shipper and carrier rates with just a few taps. If you are ready to learn more, visit www.revenova.com to request a demo. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agent success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. It has been a great week. Freight's humming out there, you guys. We move a lot of open deck freight, and it's building season out there, so we're enjoying that. We're staying busy, we're staying on top of it. And my guest today, you guys, we're gonna be talking about building a company. We're gonna be talking about going out there and building something from scratch. And I'm really excited because there's a family connection today between today's guest and a past guest out there. So with that being said, I have the founder of Waggon, Mr. Rob Rajfer, on the show. Rob, thank you so much for joining me.
Morning. Happy to be here.
Dude, I am too, man. And it's, I was wishing we could be in person today, because you're up in Scottsdale. I'm down in Chandler here. And it would have been awesome to get together and do this in person, especially because we have an unseasonably cool weekend in Arizona. So it's only going to be 90 today, which most people out there are going to hear that and they're going to be like, that's so hot. But dude, out here, it's so unseasonably cold.
It's true. It's very true. We'll have to do a follow-up episode in person. So
no, we definitely will, man. And I don't want either of us to be at a point where we're slow, but in the event that things are a little bit more calm, man, we can definitely do that in person. So, dude, I always like to start these shows. Rob, what brought you into transportation? How'd you get your start in freight?
So that's a perfect intro based on your intro. My brother-in-law, Jeremy Schlockett, who's over at Traffics, got me into the business. I was a junior in college and wanted to go into finance or law, which was what all my friends and family were in. And went for a bunch of internships my junior year summer, which is kind of the classic, junior in college thing to do, especially for finance, and
Yeah.
didn't get any internships that I wanted to do. And I called up Jeremy and I was like, that internship at that trucking company, C.H. Robinson, that sounds great. I'd love to interview there and see what I could do.
Dude, I think that, having that connection in there, and then especially like Jeremy, like, right? Because like I had Jeremy on the show and he was introduced to me from a good buddy of mine as well. And Jeremy's one of the most knowledgeable and passionate people about transportation that I think I've ever interviewed on this show. And not only is that there, but he also like deeply cares about his job and like the industry and all of that. And I haven't talked to him essentially since he's been on my show, but I still remember that one, right? And, I talked to a lot of people, obviously, and, his was one of those more meaningful ones because of just the type of passion that he gets. Like, you don't see that in everybody, right? Like, there's people who do transportation for a job, but then there's people who bleed the industry. And he's one of those guys, in my opinion, that bleeds freight.
He definitely does. And it definitely shows. He's been an amazing mentor to me. And I'm very grateful that he's the man that's married to my sister. So in more ways than one. So I couldn't agree more. And, I definitely attribute a lot of my success to, his mentorship and stewardship. So.
No, dude, I love that, man. And so like, what brought you as an entrepreneur now? I always love hearing this, man. What happened where you're like, I want to go and start my own thing? Kind of walk us through the beginning stages of that, because I think it's such a blur when you start a business because there's so much stuff going on that I like to document a lot of that, especially with founders, because I think you kind of start to remember things that you forgot you kind of did. So kind of like, what was that those early conversations with your co-founders and stuff? Kind of like what led Waggon to becoming Waggon?
Yeah, it's a great point. So, I mean, I think I always had the entrepreneurial bug. When I was at C.H. Robinson, I started kind of like a micro VC where I was kind of syndicating investments in different startups. So I'd raise like a very small amount of capital into, pre-seed and seed rounds. And then I'd get those founders to give me advisory shares. And so that was kind of my initial entrepreneurial journey. But, I was at Robinson and loved my time there, amazing organization. They really teach and set the foundation so well. And, I feel like all roads in our industry in some way lead back to C.H. Robinson or Coyote. And so I was there for about 4 years and, stayed there through the territory model switch. And, just kind of took a look around and I was like, this is a massive organization. And the downside of a massive organization is as you try to move up, there's only so many spots. And, that's just large companies, right? And it takes a lot of time. And, I kind of saw an opportunity to move my career forward and make a move somewhere else and, flex that entrepreneurial muscle that I had already kind of started, but actually in my own career. So I made the jump to Flock Freight back in October. I want to say it was October of 2020. 2020 or 2021. I need a little bit more coffee as well. But so I made the jump to Flock Freight. And that's where I met Tyler Sala, who's my co-founder and the chief operating officer here at Waggon. And, it was a training class of 2 because we were very early at Flock. So it was a woman by the name of Mia Wren was our, HR and people and culture manager. And she brought us on and got us up to speed. And, Justin Turner was the one who hired us. And he's also another phenomenal transportation expert. And, Tyler and I just hit it off right away. We thought about the business the same way. And, I was super impressed with Tyler's background. He'd been at a lot of different places, been in transportation for a very long time. They say jack of all trades, ace of none, but Tyler is just super well-rounded. And the opposite of that expression applies to him. So, so we became close friends during our time at Flock. And, we were both in commercial sales and sold for about 2.5 years. And it's probably about January of 2023. There were some pretty significant changes that transpired at Flock that negatively affected a lot of employees. And, it just kind of got to that time where, I started looking for my next thing. Again, opportunity to move my career forward.
Yeah.
And, interviewed at some places and just kind of took a look around and was like, I'm 28, single, living in New York. Like there's no better time to take a swing on myself,
Yeah.
And I had a couple of very good friends from high school who were super supportive of my professional journey. And they're like, you're amazing at this. You should go do it yourself. And I was like, it's not that easy. If it was that easy, everybody would do it. It's a very competitive market, and people say it's a low barrier to entry, but that's actually not the case. It's actually very capital intensive if you're going to do it the right way, right?
Yeah.
I also shared that we were in the bottom of the market. I laugh now because I told all the investors, I was like, the market's bad. We're starting at the bottom. It's going to be bad for a year, maybe 2. No way it's going to be bad for 3 years. And here we are. So we raised some cash and, we launched our first load, moved May 1st of 23.
Okay. So, dude, I love that, man. I love that story and kind of like how everything starts to connect, right? Because like dude, when I got in and, I brought in my business partner with it and, he's my best friend, he's my first cousin, and he's somebody who, 3 years in, we haven't came to blows from a physical standpoint. So like we work well together, all things considered. And, we do that because like we have contrasting personalities and like styles in how we like to operate,
Sure.
And we're now 2.5 years in. Cause like it was late 2022 when we're like, hey, let's get this together. And then, we went and built up everything behind the scenes first. And then we essentially went go live January 1 of 2023. And I was in the same boat as you, man. And that was, all of my industry experience, everything that I saw out there, I was like, dude, by 2024, things are going to start to like pick up, like it has to at that point. And, you're right, man, here we are. And I think like from my perspective, man, a lot of people need to stop asking, when's it going to change, and start thinking, what if it doesn't? And how do I grow no matter what goes on out there? And, and that's kind of the approach that we take, is like, dude, we're just so niche specific in what we're building. And we just do that from like a growth trajectory, a training and development. I don't believe in the spray and pray methodology of like going after anything and everything. And now, you guys are different and we're different in the sense of like, we have actual experience in multiple different modes of transportation that's out there. Not everybody has that, right? So that's why I'm always so niche specific with people when you're building, because I'm like, repeatable, scalable processes. That's what you need. You need stuff that you can duplicate and replicate and build behind you to where you can make you and make 10 people behind you operate in the same manner that you do, right? Because the secret sauce, and like I think everybody always wants to talk to, like, okay, your culture, you're this, you're that. Well, that comes from the founders. That comes from the way that you guys operate from day one, $1. And I think like I love founder-led organizations mainly because, I'm a founder-led organization and I feel like they move faster and they're more passionate, right? Because you guys and ourselves know what it's like when you have no customers, you have no money coming in, you have everything on the line, right? Like I talk about this on the show often, Rob, and I don't joke when I say like, I don't have a 401k anymore, you guys. I emptied that shit out to put everything on the line to build my dreams up, right? So like, that's the level of seriousness that we operate with every time we go out there and when we're cold calling and prospecting and everything, because we had no guaranteed freight. We had nothing. Like we started from $0, zero customers. So it's like, that's what I love the most about talking to individuals though, like yourselves in yourself is like, you're out there building it from nothing, and raising money is not easy. Like there's a fallacy out there, like, oh, just snap your fingers. You have this napkin idea, boom, there's fucking $5 million, go out and spend it and stuff like that. So how did you guys take that capital? Because there's a lot of people out there that want to raise money. So how did you, after you guys raised, how were you like, we have to invest in this first? Did you guys have like a top 5 things that you wanted to invest in right away? Was it technology? Was it people? What did that look like?
So that's a great point to also talk about. And before I answer, like, how we kind of went about capital allocation, I want to say, a lot of people celebrate raising money and raising rounds. And I think it's really important, no matter who you're raising money for, whether it's a high net worth individual angel investor, whether it's the largest fund out there, or anything in between, that, raising money is not a celebration, it's an obligation, right? Like when you take that dollar, you have a fiduciary responsibility to be a steward of that capital and do everything in your power to return, maximum premiums to investors and take care of them in any way you possibly can. So like, I think we're not venture backed, right? Like we're backed by friends and family, such company offices. And so that's a little bit of a different dynamic, than the typical venture route. But it's just it's something when I see that online, I'm like, okay, great, XYZ organization raised XYZ amount of dollars. But like, what's the plan to actually return value to your shareholders, and how are you going to get there? Because that is what it's about the second you take, that outside dollar.
I want to just kind of interject here. I think it would be harder for me personally to take money from people I know, that friends and that family, because of that emotional, like I would feel, not that I would ever discredit any, type of funds that I would be able to raise from like private equity or venture. But like, if it was me going to somebody that like I grew up with, or like was my brother-in-law or my sister-in-law, like, dude, I would feel so much more anxiety on like, I got to get them a return.
It is a weight on my shoulders I've never felt until these are people I love and care about, right? Yeah. And I recognize that the people who invest in Waggon, are like, it's a high risk, high reward investment, right? So like, I understand that, like, they're not giving me, money that they can't afford to lose, right?
Yeah.
And that's, obviously very clearly outlined in all of our docs, right? That this is what this is. But it's a crazy way, raising from friends and family. But by the same token, the other side of that is, if you're able to deliver for them, the upside is just that much greater, right? Because it's people that you love and care about. So, it's my recommendation to people out there, raising money would be, sure, it's great to get your start from, friends and family, et cetera. But as soon as you can actually go the institutional route, as long as you can get the right partner, I think the right partner is so important. That's the way to go, right? Because you don't want to keep tapping the angel investor well.
Yeah. No, I got you, man. So after you go through that round, now, like, what does that capital disbursement look like? Is it were you guys like, hey, we want to automate as much as we can behind the scenes and focus on technology, or are you guys kind of doing a hybrid model of like, we want that old school freight mentality, but we want that new school tech backing behind it on like a customer by customer basis?
So we raised that initial round, and then we brought in, an additional round of capital probably 6 months or 8 months in, which was about 4 times what we initially raised. And all that capital has effectively gone to just bringing the best people in the business, enabled by best-in-class technology practices, and then outlining, the best process that we possibly can, given the tools that are at our disposal, right? And I always tell people, we're building the plane as we're flying it, right? So like, we discover new problems on a daily basis, in addition to the problems that just come with garden variety freight. And so that's really what the money goes towards. And that's why our first year we did about $3 million in top line, in about 6 months. And our second year we 6x that, and this year we're looking to 3x last year's top line. And
nice, man.
I mean, we've effectively grown almost every month over month since we've been in business. And the way we've been able to do that is, we're not recreating the wheel here. We're just creating a really strong wheel. And again, that's enabled by the best people, right? Because that's what this business is you hire the best people, you take care of them, and you let them go out and deliver, and to the best you can. Again, as a leader, you have to enable them and give them room to run within, XYZ parameters. So.
No, I get it, man. Yeah, I think like we're in an interesting time out there where it's like, there obviously I'm one of the old school, new school hybrids in the sense of like, if you have the money to invest in technology in the right spots, right? Like, of course, try and streamline as much as that you possibly can. And, but it's like, if you can't afford it though, you got to be strategic in the sense of like, what are your customers actually asking for? And we do not have any customers to this day that have ever said, what does your tech stack look like? What are you going to be able to do? 99% of them are like, dude, you said you could pick up this load. Why aren't you picking up this load? Or, just pick up the freight and deliver it on time and we're going to be good to go. Right. So I feel like there's kind of a balance out there of, do you need it or not? And I feel like if you're bootstrapping or if you have capital out there, like, I have yet to see it outside of, I know some of my friends who work with the Fortune 100s and the Fortune 500s of the world. And yeah, that's different, but that's a small sector of the industry. And that's a even smaller opportunity to actually get in the door with some of those style shippers. And I feel like the majority of people and the majority of the opportunities that are out there, you don't need a large tech stack. You need a solid TMS, You need a really solid TMS. You need API capabilities. You need EDI capabilities. But like, for the most part, man, I don't know of anything else that is like actually required to move freight out there outside of your TMS. And yeah, you could argue load boards and rating and stuff like that, but it's a very small circle of actual tech that you need to move freight out there right now.
So I completely agree. And, a little shout out to our VP of Sales, Jeremy Goodman. Jeremy and I worked together at C.H. Robinson, and he was there before me, and I started in his group. And I remember we were talking one day, like very early in my career, and he said something to me along the lines of, the brokerage you're working with is only as good as the broker you're dealing with. And I think that is so true, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why people are so important, right? Because the way we've been able to grow through a combination of, net new and growth of existing is because we have amazing people, that are, both operating and growing accounts and also bringing in new accounts. And, we're building the team, that shippers want to work with. Right. And sure, everybody says that, right? Yeah. But going out and doing it in reality and execution is totally different than saying you can do it. Right. And so that's why so much of this business is also just getting in the door, getting an opportunity. And to your point, building a niche is a great way to do that, because that's the way you're able to actually demonstrate value. And then once you're in and, you can show a shipper who you are, then you're able to kind of diversify in the services that you can offer and grow with them year over year. And that's how you build a $1 billion organization.
Yeah. It's, I think there's a lot of overcomplication that is out there in the market right now. And again, man, there's a lot of companies who have a lot of money to disperse on marketing that are creating and marketing a perceived need in the market that I don't necessarily see out there. I'm not saying that it's non-existent across the board or anything like that, but for the most part, man, I think like that's what I love about this industry is like, man, you can get in and keep your overhead low, depending on the style of business you want to build, right? At the end of the day, and you can build a profitable business, pretty, I don't want to say easy or fast or anything like that, but you don't need a ton of tech. You don't need a ton of outside stuff to go out and move freight at the end of the day. You need that tribal knowledge, and that's only going to come from experience. That's only going to come from actually going out there and moving freight and making mistakes. And, because like what you said there, Rob, is very accurate. There is very little any of us can say on the front end to any of our shippers that they haven't heard before 100 times over. Correct. Really, fundamentally, it's going to boil down to the individual operating that freight, and frankly, the give a fuck level that individual actually has for their book of business and their reputation out there in the market. Because I thought everybody cared, man. Like I really did. But because that's just the way that I am about it, and I'm coming to realize, man, that's not a thing at all. And, I've just found that from my perspective, the best thing you can do is actually communicate. And I mean, actually communicate, not say what's going on. I mean, actually do it. And then when you're moving their freight, find those opportunities inside of their operation, your shipper's operation, on what you can actually find efficiencies with. And then bring those improvements to them. And I feel like that just comes after you start moving their freight. But for the most part, it takes a long time, especially in today's market, to really bust through the door with a lot of these individuals.
I agree. And so it's funny. I actually think that something that is not talked about a lot in our business, but is arguably the most important aspect of our business is recruiting, right? Like, how are you going out and finding the best talent for different roles? That's a question shippers never ask, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like that's the most important thing. All shippers are happy when there's someone amazing on their account, but the second you pull that person off their account and swap them out, if that person isn't up to the previous standard of the prior individual, right, then there's problems. So like if I was a shipper, talking to a prospective 3PL, I'd be asking like, how are you recruiting? What's your process look like? How are you vetting people? Who's on my account? How long can I expect them to be on my account? If that person becomes really good, are they going to get promoted and, move off of my account? And, I think it's one of the most important parts of the business that just doesn't get enough attention.
No, I'm right there with you, man. Cause it's like at the end of the day, you need to plug and play. You need to replicate yourself as fast as possible and get them somebody in there, because your customer should never see any difference. And that's one thing that we're really hammering into our training and everything that comes along with it is it does not matter if it's me, my business partner, or anybody else dealing with my customer. They will receive the exact same response time, the exact same service, and the exact same communication, no matter what that's going on out there. Because I feel like that's the biggest opportunity is when people churn that rep on that account. And if they don't come in and deliver the exact same level of service that they are used to, that's when my job gets a lot easier from the prospecting front, because like I'm in your shipper's ears at some point, right? Well, I don't know who your customers are, but you know what I mean? Like I'm actively prospecting every single day. I am making cold calls every single day. It's only a matter of time. And especially if you're out there listening to this and you move flatbed freight, it's really only a matter of time before I'm in your customer's ears. And that's the way that you got to look at it. Is your customer is my prospect. And if you're going to let your foot off the gas 1 second, that's my window, and that's all I'm asking for. And just like with me, though, with all of my customers, it's the same fucking thing. If I take my foot off the gas 1 second, somebody else is in their ear right now, this second, while I'm doing the show, somebody's prospecting my current customers.
100%. Totally agree.
That's what I love about this shit, man. I love it. There's just so much opportunity that comes along with it. So, dude, what do you think is the best opportunity over the next, 3 to 5 years inside of this industry? Where do you see things kind of trending? I don't care about how the market performs. I mean, like from a more of like a fundamentals technology standpoint, do you see anything kind of progressing where it's like there's a real opportunity that comes along with it? Because frankly, when it comes to the market, it's a crapshoot at this point on what it's going to be.
I think there's a lot of opportunities. I think M&A is probably one of the largest ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's become so fragmented, both on the asset carrier side and on the broker side. And there's so many synergies, specifically on the broker side, that get realized, through acquisitions, that I think you can go out and buy, a few brokerages, and you basically wipe out their tech stack and, a very large piece of their OpEx, because through consolidation, you're realizing those synergies. You get significant EBITDA, increases and multiple increases by kind of, threading those 3PLs together. Again, there's so many 3PLs under like 25 million, right? Yeah. Where it's just like, it's a few great customers, a few deep relationships. Also, you're buying the people, right? They're getting employment agreements. They're getting locked in for a period of time. And I think that is something that you're just going to see, especially given how bad the market has been over the last few years. I think that's something we're really going to see, over the next 2 to 3 years.
I agree, man. I think the biggest threat to the industry comes for the brokerage side of the industry. I truly do. I feel like from a consolidation standpoint, and I feel like there's just going to reach a point where some people are just going to throw the white flag and be like, I'm done, man. I can't do this anymore. And, like that's one thing that I would say is like on our roadmap is probably in the M&A space. That's the only way I would ever take on debt. I'm not going to take on debt for anything else. But it would be along those lines, because I do feel like there is a lot of opportunity that comes along with it. And there are a lot of businesses that are inside of this space, like you said, under, that 20 to 25 million that have probably 3 to 4 core accounts. 2 of those core accounts are like, 80% of their revenue, and they got a couple of filler accounts in there. But yeah, man, that's out there. And then if you can go in there and and this is where from my perspective, it is that automation piece that comes along with it. It is all the back office stuff, right? Like I will never automate a customer or carrier experience with my company. Never, ever, ever under any circumstance. At least to this day, I haven't found a need to ever want to do that, because I feel like personally, that's what people are going to revert back to is while everybody pushes automate everything, AI dialers, AI everything, I think like that's going to just build up a lot of resistance right away, because it's only a matter of time before these manufacturers have an AI receptionist answering all the phones, and then it's bot talking to bot. And then how are you going to ever break through at that point?
I agree. I think one of the big moats of AI is the human experience and sales, right? Like an AI robot is not going to be able to sell and deliver value and opportunities the same way a human can, or at least not for the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
But I do think that AI, that's another huge disruptor that's coming for our industry. I mean, it's going to allow so much amazing automation on the back end of things that I think it's really going to help a lot of 3PLs lower their OpEx. It's going to be interesting to see how that industry becomes very commoditized, because it's happening at a extremely fast rate. So
yeah. No, I'm right there with you, man. And I feel like that's one thing where, from an automation standpoint, that's where we're going to go next is like, we already have, like, we're very fortunate to have a phenomenal tech stack, like we're an agent with SPI, and, I'm very fortunate to use a lot of the logos that sponsor the show daily inside of my business. Right. Like, I mean, I use Revenova literally 100 times a day. Right. But I feel like from there, it's the building the operational efficiencies through automation to where, like, when we do go out there and hire people, I'm not hiring 15 to hope 5 work out. I'm just going to hire the right 5 and arm them with the right tech stack to where they can now 10x their opportunities. And that's just the approach that we're going to be taking with it, because I just don't feel the need to automate everything. But, like, in my opinion, 90% of my day should be automated. It can be automated. And that's what we're going to do. So we're hiring the right people. And I truly think, like, we're going to be able to hit some really gaudy numbers with a lean headcount, because, as I always say, and I'll say it again, man, we will never have cap commissions. So my people are going to make as much money as their heart desires. And I'm never going to stop that, because as somebody who is a sales rep at heart, the most demotivating thing you can do is be like, hey man, we're going to raise your goals. Fuck that, man. Like, let them hunt.
Goals are cut your commissions. So.
Dude, exactly. I'm going to let my hunters hunt, man. And they're going to go out there and kill.
Completely agree.
Dude, I love it, man. Rob, I appreciate your time, man. I'm really excited to see how you guys are going to go and continue to do some good things out there in the market, man. How does anybody reach out to you guys? Are you guys hiring? How do people reach out and find out more?
We're definitely hiring customer sales. So if you're interested, shoot your resume and craziest freight story over to info@waggon.io.
Perfect. Rob, I appreciate it, man. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, that's how your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything.